Okay, so here we are again in the studio. I've really got to work up the confidence, I think, to start posting these properly. However, I've got a lot of equipment and things like that. I'll probably just end up doing it. This could be the first one. Which dovetails interestingly into, I guess, what I sort of want to talk about. So I am currently, today, as of the recording of this video, this is my first official day of university. It's a week overdue. We had what they keep calling a rain event or a flooding event in Brisbane here where I live, and the university, both campuses were damaged. The university shut down for the week. I also didn't have any classes on today. Classes start tomorrow morning, so we are pretty much at the end of my I think of it as a tenure of inaction following Dad's death. And we're having to kick into action again. I don't know if I'm particularly ready for that. It's been a very strange sort of time of life. I feel like I need more rest. But at the same time, I know that if I rest too much, I'll only get depressed and I'll overthink things. I'll start getting nostalgic and ruminating and all of this sort of thing. So maybe my problem isn't that I have too much to do. Maybe it's that I've been putting my energy into the wrong things, and that's why I feel simultaneously exhausted and like I'm stuck in the past. Can't move forward because I'm exhausted. Can't reflect on the past too much because, frankly, it's a pretty toxic place at this time in my life. So we're clear. So this is more of me trying to deal with mental health issues, problems, I guess you could call them. I'm depressed, I'm anxious. I think I have elements of OCD in there, which I'll explain. In my therapy, there's definitely been a lot of discussion around PTSD. And I'm going into a social work degree. It's an interesting time. I'm looking forward to it. I wouldn't say I'm excited about it. This is my third time going to university. none of the 3 degrees that I hold at the moment have ever aided in my employment. Once again, I wonder if it is more to do with my... This is an interesting thing. Maybe it's, to complete that thought, maybe it's more to do with my personal demeanour than it is to do with my qualifications. I've placed a lot of blame, and still place a lot of blame, on the wider employment market. My first degree was in literature. I was under the impression that you got a degree, you went and got a job in that field, you began working in that field. By the time I graduated, the market was saturated with people with degrees, and I was late to the party. I don't want to sound elitist, but I also went to a fairly rural university for my first degree, which I have been told anecdotally isn't well regarded. I think it's a very localized university insofar as it gives you jobs in the local area that it is in. Engineering, agriculture, things like that. Not so much literature and film, which is fine, but I got caught short by that. Second degree, I've got 2 master's degrees from there that I completed pretty much concurrently. I did one, and then I found out that I only had to do one more term to get the second. So that's what I did, thinking that 2 master's degrees would give me an edge over anyone with the 1 master's degree that I'd originally completed. And I think what happened was, even though I had 2 master's degrees, I didn't have very much experience in the setting I was in, as in the work setting. I also didn't have any social contacts, no cultural capital, no peer support. So I pretty much lucked out there. And after maybe four years, so it would have been last year. So it was 5 years. It's been 5 years since I've graduated or so. Maybe 6. No, it'd be closer to 7 now because COVID's happened. So it was 5 years. I graduated in 2015. It's now 2022. So call it 5 years ago, I pretty much hung up my ideas of ever gaining employment in that industry because it had been 5 years and I'd been applying almost exclusively and hadn't gotten there. That industry was highly competitive, is highly competitive, has a massive retention rate. It was in libraries. I wanted a good, high-paying, stable job. However, those reasons are exactly why I couldn't get in, as well as not knowing anyone, basically. So I've got these 3 degrees and now I'm going into social work. I'm not super confident, but I am cautiously optimistic. I've been accepted. I'm in line for a scholarship, it's an equity-based scholarship. It's not a results-based scholarship or a merit-based scholarship or whatever you want to call it. It's not going to be a particularly high-paying one, but it will probably make a world of difference. And I'm hoping that I can sort of leverage the skills that I've developed through the last 20 years to do well in it. So the idea is to start slow and just kind of work through it. Slow, patient, simple. I think of it as massaging my way through it, into it, whatever. I'm too old to have the enthusiasm, I find, and I don't mean that in a physical sense. I'm 38. I'm hardly an old dog yet, but I'm hardly a fresh-faced 18-year-old excited to embark on my new career. I've had 20 years of a fair amount of disappointment. Call it 15 years. Call it 15 years before the depression, the disappointment really started setting in. So, yeah. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not massively enthusiastic. I've also, like I say, I still feel like I'm recovering from Dad's death. A lot of trauma last week. I had to go and spend the week at a friend's place, or at least the first couple of nights at a friend's place of last week. Just to get a change of scene from this place. And part of that was stretching too thin. I think I was overdoing it with the list making. I think I was overdoing it with putting pressure on myself to race to the bottom of my to-do list every day. Part of it was just a change of scene, like COVID isolation has been a real challenge for me. I've never cohabited with a partner. I've never had a pet since school. And I'm too old to share house anymore, I find. The last share house I was kind of properly involved in, I ended up getting kicked out of it. And it was in pretty spectacular fashion that I ended my basically my friendship with the people that lived there. I'm still convinced that I was in the right, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, I'm just too old. I need my own space. I'd love to have a partner to cohabit with. Even the last couple of years, I've been making peace with the idea of becoming a stepdad, getting an instant family. And I don't even know if that will happen because I'm not a good provider. I'm flat out providing for myself, which in itself is another weird thing because I'm good with money. I'm living quite comfortably on the dole plus a little bit more. And I'm pretty happy where I am. If I didn't have the pressure of job network agencies, I feel like I could quite happily continue where I am. I have a lot to say on the employment market, but we'll leave that for another time. It's just nice to it's been okay. It'd be nice to have a partner. I'm not. I think I'm adjusting to the idea of not having one, which is interesting because I haven't had a partner for the last five years or so, maybe. I haven't been intimate with anyone since before COVID began, so it's not just physical intimacy. It's never just been physical intimacy. There's always been an emotional component. But it's always been a bit of a strange topic with me. I have an extremely, I would say, compromised relationship history. Which is something that has another reason, pretty much the reason why I still deal with PTSD from traumatic breakups, suicidal intimate partners, the deaths of recent intimate partners, trust issues on both sides, cheating, infidelity, I feel like a weird experience with some cut rate kind of one-way polyamory. There is a lot in my intimate past that is to blame for my emotional exhaustion, I feel. Which is a whole other thing, but this is like I'm just talking through. I've been stretched. I've come so far on my own that I think this is the end of the line, at least as far as like physically this is where I'm going to be. Financially, I would really like some stability. Emotionally, I'm exhausted still, and this is 10 years after I moved down from Rockhampton. I would say. So there were a couple of relationships that I was in when I first got to Brisbane. Two relationships in particular that pretty much did me. As in, that's me done. I don't want to say that I'll never be in another relationship, but I kind of feel like that may be something I have to consider. And that sounds terrible, right? But I don't feel like it. I've had to, the last couple of years, like since COVID pretty much slammed the door shut. And this is what I mean. Like, so I wanted to travel. But it's not just like, so Australia closed its borders or whatever, so the travel wasn't a thing anymore. But it's not just that Australia closed the borders. It's that as a single person who is long-term unemployed, I am never going to have the money to travel unless I get my bum into gear and get a really good job and then spend all of that money on travel. And then where am I going to, like, I'm going to go to England, I'm going to go to Europe. There's the Russia invaded the Ukraine, I'm going to say 2 weeks ago, maximum. England's riddled with COVID. America is, I feel like America is in its death throes at the moment. Like, where am I going to go? And I know there's Asia and, places like Antarctica and whatnot, but it makes it very difficult. It's probably more difficult. I feel like it's more difficult now to travel worldwide than it has been at any other time in my life. So that goes out the window. And I made peace with that. Like, I'm kind of happy here, muddling along. I'll go down to the park every couple of days and I'll sit in the sun. And that'll be cool. Like, I sit there, I read my book, I watch the clouds, I watch the dogs in the dog park. I'm okay with that. Like, anything in life, sometimes you just need to hang it up. And I hung travel up, was one of the first things that went out the window. Having a partner, having a family, it is getting to the point where those two things are slowly converging. Having a partner is starting to mean that's when the family begins. If I get a family, I've always wanted a family. Recent discussions with people, a few people have told me that wasn't clearly telegraphed to anyone. I get the feeling like they made up their minds based on a hedonistic version of me that wasn't really me, which is a whole other thing. Probably another huge reason why probably the root of why I got the reputation I did, the friends I did, all of that was the fact that I went through family trauma late in school and I wouldn't even say fell prey, but sort of gave myself over to being hypersocial. When I am not a hypersocial person by nature, alcohol definitely was a part of that. Seemed to have a reputation as a big drinker, a big talker, all of that sort of thing, which is fine, but it wasn't really me. And when I knuckled down and started working, and then I kind of went too far in the other way, or not even too far in the other way, I kept drinking whilst I was working and being hypersocial with my workmates. Once again, not really anyone's fault but my own, but I was definitely surrounded by bad influences who also viewed me as quite disposable. Not just the work crew, but a lot of my friends from my undergraduate days. This is part of the reason why the town I went to uni in first doesn't sit very high in my estimation. I met a lot of toxic people there. even the people who aren't necessarily toxic themselves seem to feel like it was okay to take their toxic behaviours out on me. Drinking was a big one. A lot of people wanted to drink. I was always up for it. And the whole time I thought that I wasn't even necessarily making like good and true, honest, 100% friends, but I thought that I at least had some, like their perception of me was as a person, not as an alcoholic, a rummy. But yeah, the drinking led to hypersocial stupidity, essentially. And that kind of informed people's opinions of me a lot. And I have always been of the opinion, like I've always wanted a family. I didn't want a family before I was 30. Now I'm almost 40, and I would say at a pinch every relationship I had in my 20s, they wanted kids. And a big part of the reason why I'm single now is because I wouldn't give them kids that quickly. Then I've come down here and I've quietened down a lot. Put on weight again. Generally healthier. Mentally still struggling, but that's because of other circumstances as well. But yeah, just a real weird. I talk to people now from like the old days, the glory days or what have you, and they never realised that I actually did want a family and things like that. So interesting, I find. I don't think I ever hid the fact that I wanted a family, but probably wasn't exactly forward about it. I definitely wanted a girlfriend, at least while I was there. And I got a couple of girlfriends that really put me through the ringer. Anyway, here I am again talking about my past in another town. The fact, like, I would really like a partner. I've tried building relationships. I've had people who I have essentially propositioned for a relationship. Not in the way that I used to when I was younger, where I was very blunt and very quick about it. These are people that I've gotten to know. And then I've asked about it, and the strike rate hasn't been good, but also I'm not, like, it also hasn't affected our friendship. I have been rejected a lot in my life, so I'm not really that scared of rejection. It doesn't affect me. Like, I don't immediately, it's weird. I don't immediately, like, I don't suddenly get all sad and, I thought we'd be great together. Too old for that. I do get jealous of people. I freely admit, and this is probably why, like, counterintuitively, this is why I've gotten to the point where I don't have much fear of rejection and things like that, because I freely acknowledge that I do get jealous of, especially the guys who get with the girls that I ask out. Now, I'm not one of these guys who goes and bad mouths the dude. I've never done that. I'm happy for people. Like, to me, the idea is, if you meet someone that you like and you get along with them, the whole idea is that you like them. So when they, like, it might not necessarily be with you, but if they get with someone who makes them happy, shouldn't that make you happy? Like, that, to see them happy? Like, that's the way it's always sort of worked for me. Having said that, I can look at the guy and go, I wish it was me, man. I wish it could have been me. But part of the reason I like that person is probably because they've got their head screwed on. And if their head is screwed on enough to make the decision that I am not a suitable partner, then that's okay with me. Like, to me, that works perfectly logically. This is why I don't sort of truck with a lot of these male subcultures that are female oriented, for want of a better term. You know the ones I mean. They don't even produce the results they want when they're on. Like, all you do is end up being a hateful prick, and I've got better things to do with my time. Like, I love people. Like, this is what sucks. I love people. I think they're interesting. I think they're funny. I like to people watch. I like to make up my silly little stories and stuff. And sometimes they are horrible, but other times, usually they're pleasant, because it's nice to see people happy and enjoying themselves. I think that's why I take it so hard when people are horrible to me, because aren't I just like you? Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, that was a bit of a tangent, but yeah, it's interesting. I have tried to get into relationships down here, and I haven't been successful, but that's okay. That my time will come. I am losing weight. I'm going to put a little bit more time into my appearance this year. I'm hoping this video is kind of the beginning of something better, because it would be cool to do something that is with someone else, or even just progress. Maybe just progression is what I'm after. I've been reading about Stoicism. I haven't been reading a bit of Stoicism. I'm not going to do a Stoicism. I've been reading about Stoicism, and you're looking at, like, a useful technique is, what can I control and what can't I control? I can't control whether or not someone wants to go out with me. And when I was younger, I tried. So that was a lesson, hard learned, but I think I needed someone. Like, Stoicism spelled that out, and it made so much sense. So I can't control whether or not someone wants to go out with me, but I can control myself. I can control my appearance and how I treat myself, and from there, how I feel about myself. Maybe if I treat myself a little bit better, I'll feel better about myself. So maybe that's the idea. And I don't think I'm okay with not having a relationship. I'd love one, but I'm okay with not having one. I think I've been single for half a decade now, more, and I think I'm okay with it. I was single for half a decade in my younger years, from when I was about 18 till when I was about 23, and I was ready to fucking kill someone. I felt horrible at that point in time. And I don't feel like that now. I've had my moments. This time last week, I was feeling pretty sorry for myself. But it wasn't about this. That was because I was stretched too thin. So I am just going to take it gentle, take it a day at a time, and just try to improve myself little bit by little bit. I'll get there, hopefully. Okay, I think I've talked enough. I am going to edit this up, maybe put it up on YouTube, and maybe I'll get the guts to make this public. I don't know.